Picture this. You're standing at a waterhole in North Africa 300,000 years ago, and you are not alone. Because right now, drinking from the same water are not one, not two, but several completely different kinds of humans. Some are shorter than your chest. Some have skulls shaped nothing like yours. Some are built like they could snap you in half without trying. And one of them, the smallest, the weakest looking of the bunch, is us. That's not science fiction. That's a real moment in our planet's past, pieced together from actual bones, actual DNA, actual dirt dug out of caves on 3 continents. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why the single caveman image sitting in your head right now is almost completely wrong. Here's the thing most people never learn in school. For almost all of human history, there wasn't just one kind of human walking the earth. There were several at the same time, on the same continents, sometimes drinking from the very same rivers, sometimes hunting the very same animals. Modern humans, the version of us alive today, trace back to fossils found in Morocco dated to roughly 300,000 years old, the oldest confirmed remains of our species anywhere on the planet. Scientists pin down that age using a technique that measures radiation trapped inside heated flint tools buried alongside the bones. It's not a guess, it's physics. But here's the twist. When those bones were fresh, we weren't the only humans around, not even close. Depending on the exact window in time, anywhere from 3 to 7 other human species were alive on Earth at once. Some overlapped with us for tens of thousands of years. Some we only know existed because of a single tooth, or a sliver of finger bone, or a strand of ancient DNA extracted from cave dirt where no visible bone remained at all. And stick with me here, because 2 of these species are going to sound completely unbelievable. One of them is so mysterious we've never found a single skull of it, only scraps. Another stood so short as a full-grown adult, it wouldn't reach past your chest. We're getting to both. Let's start with the one most people have actually heard of, the Neanderthals. Forget the dumb, hunched-over caveman stereotype that image is decades out of date. Neanderthals were heavily built, dense-boned, and packed with muscle suited for cold climates and close-range hunting of large, dangerous animals. Their faces carried a pronounced brow ridge and a wider nose, likely built to warm freezing air before it hit their lungs. And here's the part that surprises people every time. Their brains were, on average, physically larger than ours. Not necessarily smarter, just bigger. They'd already been thriving across Europe and parts of Asia for hundreds of thousands of years by the time our species even showed up on the scene. Next, a group most people have never even heard of, the Denisovans. And this one's strange, because we genuinely don't know what they looked like. Almost everything we know about Denisovans comes from tiny bone fragments and DNA. A finger bone here, a jaw fragment there, pulled out of a single cave in Siberia and later a plateau in Tibet. No skull. No full skeleton has ever surfaced. What we do know is that they interbred with both Neanderthals and early humans. And their genetic fingerprint still shows up in living people today, including a specific gene that helps some populations in the Himalayas breathe easily at extreme altitude. An entire species, known almost entirely through invisible evidence, our own genome. Then there's Homo erectus, the old guard of the family tree. This species had already been walking the earth for over 1 million years before any of the others existed, making it one of the longest-running human species in history by a huge margin. Smaller brains than us, a more primitive body plan built low and sturdy, but an almost unbelievable survival record outlasting ice ages, shifting coastlines, and entire ecosystems collapsing and rebuilding around them, generation after generation. Quick gut check before we go further. If you had to guess which of these species had the smallest brain of the bunch, would you have picked the muscular one, the ancient one, or the one that's about to sound like it walked out of a fantasy movie? Because you're probably about to be wrong. The answer is Homo naledi, and things are about to get genuinely bizarre. This is a species with a brain roughly the size of an orange, small enough that early researchers assumed it simply couldn't be capable of complex behavior. Except, its hands and wrists tell a different story, built with the kind of fine motor control needed for detailed toolmaking, and found deep inside a nearly inaccessible cave chamber in South Africa. In a location so remote, Some researchers believe the bodies were deliberately placed there, a small brain that somehow didn't mean small capability. Somewhere in the middle of this family tree sits Homo heidelbergensis, widely considered the shared ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. Picture a rough sketch of both species blended together. Tall, robust, heavy-browed, but with a skull shape edging closer to our own. The common root before the branches split apart and went their separate ways. And finally, the one that sounds almost made up, Homo floresiensis, nicknamed the hobbits. Adults from this species stood under 4 feet tall, isolated for tens of thousands of years on a remote Indonesian island, evolving into a strikingly small-bodied version of a human being sharing that island, strangely enough, with dwarf elephants and giant storks, in one of the odder natural experiments evolution has ever run. Here's where it gets interesting. Next to all of these cousins, early Homo sapiens weren't the biggest, the strongest, or the most physically dominant. Thinner bones, a lighter build, a body that puts more energy into a smaller, more efficient frame instead of raw brute strength. We were, frankly, kind of unremarkable next to a Neanderthal's raw power or an Erectus's million-year survival record. Our advantage wasn't size, it wasn't muscle, it was something else entirely: flexibility, long-distance social cooperation, and the ability to adapt behavior faster than our bodies could physically evolve. And we didn't stay separate from our cousins either. DNA evidence shows humans and Neanderthals interbred more than once, which is exactly why most people alive today outside of Africa carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA still sitting quietly in their genome. Right now, in this moment, as you watch this, every one of those other species, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Erectus, naledi, heidelbergensis, the hobbits, every single one is gone now. We're the only ones left standing. And when you actually picture that Moroccan waterhole 300,000 years ago, with all these different faces, different bodies, different versions of human drinking side by side under the same sky, you realize something wild. For most of our history, being human didn't mean looking like you. It meant looking like a dozen different things at once. So next time someone pictures a caveman, remember it wasn't one face. There were many, scattered across continents, some taller than us, some barely half our height, some with brains bigger than ours, and some with brains a fraction of the size. And somehow, out of all of them, this scrawny, adaptable, endlessly curious version of humans is the one still standing here, watching videos about where we came from. But here's the question this leaves hanging. What actually happened when all these species crossed paths? Because it wasn't peaceful, and it's the exact reason only one of us is left to ask the question. That story, the one about how it all ended, is coming next.